Okay, so this video is on water purification. We're now able to, we've probably been able to do this for a while actually, it just hasn't come out it's practical to do it. But anyway, take water and you can run electric current through it and separate water into its two component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. Well, the thing is, if water contains other things besides hydrogen and oxygen, like pollutants or other impurities in it, so you have water over here in a glass, water in here, you got this electric current going through it, and it separates into hydrogen and oxygen. Then if you recombine that back in, whereas this part had impurities in it, is it possible that, when you run the electric current through it, it separates into hydrogen, you get the gases, you pull them out or suck them out or however you do it, they come out separately, then you put them back together, and of course when you combine them back together again, they go right back into water again, but without all the junk in it. Yay, purified water. So anywho, would this be economical? Would it be effective? Seems like it might be possible. I mean, you separate it into water that has impurities let the electric current turn into their gaseous states of hydrogen and oxygen, and as you're siphoning off the hydrogen and oxygen by themselves, the ideal situation would be that the impurities would kind of just be left behind in the bottom of the glass, since I'm using a glass for this example. That's the ideal situation, something along that lines. Whereas depends on if the pollutants and things like that are heavier than the gases and they settle to the bottom when you run an electric current through here, and it separates into like hydrogen and oxygen. I don't know how exactly which one's heavier, the hydrogen or oxygen. I imagine that the hydrogen would probably be lighter gas that would probably siphon off first than the oxygen. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But anyway, would this be viable? The experts out there can take this, and there you go. Water purification for the year 2100. Also, since we're taking out pollutants, would this work for desalination? Can you run an electric current through water, and when it separates into hydrogen and oxygen, you siphon that off, can you leave behind the salt from the ocean water? So if that's a viable option, then guess what? We have a lot of water resource just sitting out there on 3/4 of the planet, waiting for us to use for fresh, clean, purified water by using gosh, I'm forgetting what they would call this, where you run the electric current through it, where you're separating it. That's not electrolysis. It's whatever hydroelectric. I don't know. Now that's making electricity using water power. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So running electric current through water separates into hydrogen and oxygen. The ideal situation would be to leave pollutants and things like salt behind, so you can use all this ocean water and turn it into. And while we're doing this anyway, we got it separated. We got all that water out of there over there, covering 3/4 of the planet. Take some of that hydrogen and just go ahead and use it to fuel some of our vehicles that run on hydrogen, and then the rest in the correct proportions put back into water, for purified water, but without the salt. Desalination, removing the salt from it. The ideal situation, you run electricity through it, separates into hydrogen and oxygen, leaving behind salt. Would this work for desalination purposes? And then if you have something like a very economical perpetual energy device that you could just sit right next to the ocean, and a plant right there that doesn't require any energy from any other place, and just 24 hours a day you're making nothing but clean water, then the only thing you do from after that is to just pump it or move it or however you're going to do that to every part of the United States or every part of the world. Then the ocean becomes a viable option for all kinds of water as a resource. And hey, since the waters are increasing because of global warming anyway, let's siphon off some of that ocean water, right? And drink it and use it to run our vehicles by separating the hydrogen and oxygen and using the hydrogen. When you burn it, it mixes with the oxygen in the air and turns right back into water again, and so on and so forth. Anyway, you get the idea.